Hi, good evening. Welcome back to my next class. Hope all of you are fine. Enjoying the lockdown period. I know it's a bit tough, but we chess players are really fortunate that we have something to do at home, sitting at home, that is chess. We have that main advantage with us. Great. In the earlier sessions, I had taken something about opening, then something about middle game. Today is my third lesson, and for the next three classes consecutively, I'll be going with the topic as mentioned on the screen. That's Golden Treasury of Chess. It will be in part one, part two, and part three. Golden Treasury of Chess is the name of a book, which was definitely where in the same book you will find the games of pre-Morphy period. I mean, the book was published in 19, it was reprinted in 1978. It was almost, we can say 50, 80 years back. I mean, the games are so old. I mean, it's really a treasure of chess, what we say. Like, first game I'll be showing you is the game played between Hoffman and Petrov in Warsaw, and it was played in 1844. So we can imagine how the, the games played so earlier in ancient times, we can say. Like, even all the big stars, great players were not even born that time. But when we look at these games, definitely we get a feeling even though the theory and was not that advanced that time, the computers were not invented. The players used to think over the board and play. Even the quality of the game was really, really very good. It's definitely worth analyzing and doing some research on this. Even that time, without the advanced techniques, the players used to play with their full strength. So, in that ancient time, definitely the opening was not that advanced like the present scenario. Players used to play over the board with the same opening logics, which I had already described in the my first session. The basic ideas with the openings. Okay. I'll be explaining opening milligame ideas now with the help of those games. This is something like something before the classical games. I mean, there are so old games and nice games. Okay, so let's start the game first. Okay, the Hoffman was white and Petrov was black, as I told earlier. The game started with the Geico piano. If you guys remember, I had mentioned in the first class that Geico piano, King Pawn opening, Italian game. I mean, it's same Geico piano. The game was played with a Geico piano opening. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop C4, Bishop C5, C3, Knight F6, D4, Queen to D4. Even at this point, even the theory is quite followed even that time. Same opening moves are still there. For scene to D4, there's a bishop B4 check. White went with E5. Of course, that's also one of the line. Attacking the knight on F6. That's a simple thing what he's doing right now. Now, the question is where he should move the knight. As per the general opening principles, the knight H5 would be a bad move because you're taking the knight at the corner square. So basically reducing the mobility of the knight. He cannot play an Nd5, knight on d5 because bishop is controlling the d5. So either if Ng8 he just wasted the move, if he goes back to knight g8, the move is vested, and on the top of it, when he needs to castle, again he has to move the knight. So it will be a total waste of moves for him. So the natural move, what he played is knight e4. I think that's the only square available. Okay, I guess here normal scene to d4, bishop b4 check, might continue with they can continue with the game with quite interesting position. White played bishop d5. Now the e4 is under attack, and we find that there is no decent square for the knight to move. In fact, this position, looking at the next series of moves, it was observed that black might have seen bishop d5 because he went with a sacrifice of his knight, that is knight into f. I think it's definitely practical for white to capture the piece because otherwise he has lost a pawn and he will be losing a knight or the queen. So he will be definitely a material down. Like he will be losing a knight and he's getting a rook and pawn. So almost you get 5 plus 1 points and you're losing 3 and a half. So definitely white must capture king into f2. That's what he did.
Check.
Pawn into pawn check. It's discovered check. Okay, since the position of discovered check occurred in the game, let me explain you the concept of discovered check now itself. The discovered check is simply we can just go with the word discovered and check. Check means there is a check to the king. That's for sure. Discovered means you're moving a piece and the check will be with a different piece. Like in this case, black moved his pawn to c3. He captured the pawn on c3, but black's bishop is giving the check. So this concept, this technical term is, this rule will be known as discovered check. Like moving
Check.
a piece, giving a check with another piece is a discovered check. Okay. So he went with a discovered check, that's d into c3 check. White was a bit aggressive. King g3. He decided to take the pawn, bishop into pawn, adds, otherwise a1 would be hanging. Knight e7. Knight e7. Idea is attacking the f5, threatening the knight to get to f5. Then this king will be really in trouble. Even though white is having one piece for 3 pawns, so if we go with the point system, yes, definitely might be roughly equal considering the points, but due to vulnerability of white's king, that knight, that extra piece would be very disturbing for white. Okay, so knight e7, white goes with a one more attacking chance, that is king g5. It's putting the pressure on the f7. Now if black decides to castle, white will get queen h5, attack on the h7, attack on the f7. I mean multiple attacks. It will be really difficult for black to go with these many attacks on the pieces. Now the interesting part is he captures the knight into d5. If white capture queen into d5, of course all of you can find the move immediately with queen g5 check. And as I told earlier, the white king will be really in trouble. If you want, let's see few moves.
Check.
In case king h3, again,
check,
check. I'm moving a pawn, giving a check with the bishop. And if g4,
checkmate,
so anyway, this won't work for white. So coming back to the position, even if he plays king f3, still, I guess black can just go for d6. Like taking the advantage of the e5 pawn pin. He cannot capture this because he will lose the queen. Now I have opened up my bishop and threatening queen g4, a mate in 1. Even otherwise, black is already having 3 extra pawns. He is ready to castle, double bishop advantage. I think he is having more than enough to win the game. Here white had seen one combination. White played knight into f7 with the same idea that now if king into f7, queen d5 check, and next move I'll capture the c5 bishop as well, and white will remain with extra piece. Black won't be able to do castle, and then that piece would definitely give a edge in the game. White's calculation was simple, that he was thinking that he has attacked the queen and the rook. So definitely he can't give the queen. If he gives the queen, like if he plays e7, definitely he can play his h8 is hanging, d5 is hanging, too many pieces are hanging later. So what maybe the best move he thought was king into f7. He might go for king into f7. From here onwards, the Petrov playing from black played fantastic game. He played castles. This is something very interesting. Here starts the series of variations. Really interesting analysis. He is planning to capture rook into f7 and queen g5 check. Now let's consider, we'll analyze all the best options for white over here. Let's consider the, if he plays queen d5, I'll be considering the knight into d8, the last, because that's what actually happened in the game. Hoffman played knight into queen. Of course, he might have been happy. Like most of us would be really happy, oh, I got a queen. But that was actually a forced loss for him. Let's see how the game went on. What happens for queen into d5? I guess again I can go with rook into f7. If queen into c5, queen g5 check.
check,
King h3 only move because f file is totally controlled with the rook.
check,
Check. If e6, bishop into e6 check, and if g4, queen into g4 would be a mate. So queen d5 is out of question. Now we can't play queen d5 that we have seen. So coming back to the position when black played castles. Now the interesting part is white happily captured the queen. Now I would like to give you some time to think over here, because here black announced mate in 11 moves. So that means in the next 11th move or 12th move, black is going to mate white's king, and that with the forced continuation. So the maximum 11 moves will take to mate white's king. Okay. We have f file under control, knight on d5, bishop on c5. We can capture d8, but our d5 is also attacked. And after we lose d5, our c5 will be under attack. So there has to be certain forced variations which we must look at it. I think you guys need some time. I'll give you a few, maybe 30 seconds or a minute to think on this, and then we'll start working the analysis of the game. to help you in the analysis, definitely I would like to share key now black cannot afford to give a d5 or c5 bishop because d5 knight, c5 bishop, and rook on f8 are the right now the main attacking pieces and stopping the white king to go for the shelter. So we have to be a little bit careful with this. And since he has the mate in 11, so the it has to be a forced variations, practically forced variations. Okay, black went with first move. What happened? What he played is bishop f2 check.
check,
The first move. King h3. Now we have two checks possible. One is knight f4 check, and another is one more. That's a discovered check. What we had seen is knight f4 check and d6 check. Okay, so okay, what black played here is d6 check. Perfect.
check,
Rishabh definitely suggested this move in the chat. Good. d6 check. It's a discovered check. g4 would be a blunder because knight f4 is a mate. So the e6 is practically forced.
check,
That's knight f4 check. King g4. Knight into e6. Threatening for the another discovered check. Black is ready to give another discovered check. Right now, black is just one queen down for only 3 pawns. But because of white's king, which is still in the center and practically going on a chessboard tour without a shelter, it's tough for white still. White goes with g3 with the idea of just running away with the via king h3 to king g2 so that king would be safe. g3
check,
at the same time stops white from going here because h3 is controlled with the bishop. Now, there will be series of moves which will definitely force the mate on white.
check,
White check, king g4. Again, discover check,
check,
rook f6 check.
check,
Cannot capture because it's been supporting the rook and
check,
only move g6 check,
check,
only move Now it's met into with simple continuation like rook h4 check,
check,
only move. And
checkmate,
so if you look at the position, the path of the king was something like king f2, king g3. It went on king h3, king g4, king g5, king h4. I mean, almost one, two, three, close to 50% moves were played with the king. This was maybe he got the lesson that kept the king in the center without doing the early castle. So Hoffman got punished for keeping the king in the center and going with the wrong ideas. Okay, now let's see another game. The game was played in 1845 in the Paris Championship. Here again, in this game also, white is sacrificing a queen. This is again the very sharp uh, opening. That's King's Gambit. E4, E5, F4. Well, that's King's Gambit. Few options. You take this. You play this. You play this. Different options are there. Black accepts the challenge. Pawn takes pawn. The main idea in the King's Gambit is King's Gambit means white is giving the pawn on the f4. It's simple. Anything he's giving free, so it's a gambit. But at the cost of what? White tries to take the control of the central squares. 1, d4, d5, e4, e5. Helps to get the pieces fast towards center. And after castles, he's having the f file open. So basically for the initiative, the f4 pawn gambit has been given. Black played here g5. Black decided to defend the pawn and continue the game with the extra pawn. Bishop c4. Now this is something very tricky for black. Black has not completed the development. He is not looking after his development, very frank. He had just advanced, made only his pawn moves, whereas white has managed to develop two pieces, he's ready for the attack and ready to take the control of the center squares as well. Again, if you follow the simple opening rules, knight e5 has to be played, controlling the center, putting the pressure on the f7, g4, everywhere. It's quite a good move.
check,
Queen h4 check, king b1, that's king f1. Okay. If g3, g3 cannot capture this because this is hanging. Now this is at least white, black will get some chances because white king is getting exposed because sometimes queen f6 check will come, this discovered check will be in the air. So with decent counterplay, black will enjoy. So he didn't play g3 of course. White went with king f1. f3. White starts taking the control of the center first, d4. Attacking the e4, defending the e4. Oh, g3.
check,
king f2, e6, knight into f7. Black played rook f8. He cannot play long castles because if he can, there will be a discovered check and he will lose the queen. So that's not possible for him. So he played rook f8. Knight attacking the queen. Queen g2 check.
check,
King e3. Okay. I was just thinking to maybe be where we could analyze the suggestions or the questions at the end of the game. But I think it's let's do as and when I get the question. I'll try to follow the questions during the game itself. Let's do that because it will be easier for you also. Sahil is asking, was it possible to capture the f7 before few moves? Yes, Sahil, that was definitely possible. But as you can see, the black was anyway going to play rook f8. So for black, it was not going to make a big difference. He was not going to do castle anyway. So the position would have been almost similar to the position came here. I think that's what Sahil was asking. Okay. So ng5. Now coming back to the game, ng5, queen g2 check, king e3. Black decides to pin the g5 knight. Just pinning the knight, putting the pressure on the diagonal. Pawn is on f3. Indirectly, sometimes the pressure will come on e4 as well, because right now black is having only one attack, but and white is having three supports. But black is slowly trying to decoy the defense of the e4. Like he has first attacked the g5. Okay, so bishop at 6. He has just pinned the knight, coming out of the pin. Knight c6. Now the game is at an interesting stage. Now black has started developing the pieces. If we look at the position, the material count, both are with the same points. Only white, black is having advantage, that is pawn is on f3, quite advanced pawn, that two supported pawn. But white king on d3 might compensate for this. White's pieces are more towards center and controlling more than black's pieces. White is just yet to just develop one piece, that's on c1, and then he can connect the rook. Now if we consider what black is threatening, black is threatening some interesting move like king on d3. Black is just trying to force the white king to move from there, bring him under check, move it from there, and force him to come to either e3 or d2 and pressure on this. As well, getting the knight in the game. White played quite a decent and very cool move, that's a3. Sometimes it's necessary to look at opponent's threats as well. This position, yes, we can see that white is having strong center, but still he cannot overlook black's threats because NB4 check would have been a disaster for him. He's threatening a mate or losing a g5 knight, giving quite a dangerous counterplay for black. Okay, let's see what happens if he doesn't play a3. Let's see if it's something like bishop f4, because bishop e3 loses to nb4 mate. Like bishop e3, nb4 is a mate. So just thinking of, I'm sorry, I took one move behind. Yeah, bishop f4.
check, check,
Now queen is helping the attack. Suddenly, white is losing the pieces and he'll be in a lost position. Okay, so a3, a quite prophylactic move. White has stopped all the counterplay right now coming towards his king. Now he's ready to complete the development. Something like bishop e3, maybe some queen f1, try to exchange the queen, slowly take the break on h3, because he's having a strong center. The center is under his control. So he is having that liberty to do that. So a3, bishop and g5, takes. Black goes with another combination, which actually proves costly for himself. He has seen is either he will get a piece back or maybe he will get queen. Let's see what happens. He played knight into e4. Simple, sacrificing the knight. White did capture the knight. First he played into e1, getting the piece, one more piece in the e file. How to get one more attack on the e4? How to get the attack? This is spin. So taking advantage of this, can you suggest a move? I guess Rishabh and Sahil has suggested two moves, both were correct. Okay, without taking too much of time, taking the another attack on the knight and attacking the queen as well. King d7. Idea is to get the rook and put the pressure on the knight again. Okay, king d7 with the idea of another rook to e8. Bishop d5. Here, black is getting a queen by force in a combination. He's getting the queen. Let me give you some time to think and find the combination in which he's getting a queen. Okay, bishop into e.
check,
Bishop into bishop. The bishop is pinned. So, rook f3. Rook to f3. This is pinned. This is pinned. Too many pins. So, rook f3. Now he's getting the queen for sure. But will that be enough? Maybe black had just seen that he's getting the queen, that's all. But he never calculated that will be enough, whether it's enough to win or no. And that's where something went wrong. White had seen few moves ahead in black's combination. So for rook f3, what may be the best move? Queen into rook. Post.
check,
Post. No need to hurry and capture with the bishop into e6. Because when we can get the rook for free, why should we give our bishop? We should not. We should not even think of bishop to a6 in the immediate move. White coolly plays d5. Check
check,
d4. Now suddenly we can see black is having a queen on the board. We can see two rooks, one bishop, because he is losing the rook. But the queen he cannot take out from the g2 square. Cannot move the queen. So he just hopefully plays h5. Just with hope if whenever he's playing h4, if in case white captures g into h4, at least he will get a runaway file for the queen. h5. On into rook check.
check,
Bishop f6. h4. Black must be hoping that white will capture gh4 so that at least he will can get back the queen and create some threats. White coolly captures this.
check,
The game decides easily now. Can you suggest a move? Black is threatening something. He's threatening either queen into f1 or queen into h1. After capturing either of the rook, he will play pawn g2. So he will collect both the rooks and he will have the queen on the board. But king f6, white doesn't give him enough time to go with this combination. Because white is making the queen with a check. Okay, somebody suggested the move h4. Okay, h into d3. I'm sorry. I think chess knight. He suggested the move h4. As I told, for h4, black will have still the decent counterplay with queen h1, rook h1, g2. Now it's tricky. Things are not easy. Still, he should think of this. Maybe that's the only way, but he will remain piece up. Like, because I have bg6 check, like if I play this, if you capture this, I turn that in queen, I have check,
check,
king anywhere here, because otherwise if king f8, e7, e8 would be a mate.
check, check,
Something like this. But I guess still the what happened in the game was more convincing. Once we see that, you will realize it. There was No, there's no point in giving him the even slightest counterplay. So let me go back to the position. So he didn't play h4, just played king f6. Black resigned here. Like if he capture this,
check,
oh, I can just capture this. Oh no. Yeah, I can go with this. Check.
check,
Pawn push, allowing you to queen because I have either rook d8 or pawn push queen. And with so many pieces, definitely with white queening the again, this will be an easy win for him. Okay, this is how it was quite interesting game. I hope you must have enjoyed. Okay, now we'll see a miniature of just 18 moves. Played in same 1846. We are going 1 year. Started with 1844. Now it's 45. Now it's 46. E4, F4, E to F4.
check,
When H4 check. This is definitely that time theory was not invented. So whatever happened during the game was definitely played over the board. Black was very much aggressive, and it looks like he was enjoying the playing the unclear positions, keeping the double-edged positions. Played B5. Right here. The idea is to get the bishop opening for the C8 bishop. At some point, they'll be eyeing for this. So for that, he has sacrificed the pawn. Black straight away fighting for the going for the mate and the h2, putting the pressure on both the squares. Uh, just one more defense everything, so white played that. But this definitely pieces are going at the corner. At some point, you'll be trying this. Hit the bishop on from the b7, some bishop c5. Quite interesting ideas. Putting the pressure on the white's king. So pressure on the c7 as well. F4. Black sacrifices the pawn and the rook both. From here, the practically the war on the board starts. We see black is giving too many pieces. He's giving a pawn, then a rook, allowing the king to remain in the center. But at what cost? At the cost of a big initiative. He's trying to get his two knights. That's knight on d4, knight on g4, queen on h4. At some point, he will play bishop c5. He's getting all his pieces, all his forces towards white's king. So white accepted the challenge,
check,
which he should have avoided, I guess. He should not have gone for this. He should have concentrated on his own piece development and making the king safer. Knight into check. Now they're trying to break the pawn. F3 cannot capture because H3 is hanging. Played bishop c4, trying to get this bishop in the game on the diagonal. Sacrifices the one more pawn. That's takes bd6. White has to be careful with black's two bishop, bishop on d6, bishop on c8, knight on d4, knight on g4, queen on h4, and pawn on f3. All five pieces, including five pieces, including and additionally one pawn, is heading towards white's king. White is in danger. I guess White didn't realize this that he is in danger. He was just happy that he is having an extra rook and almost one extra pawn, like seven, and he's having two extra pawns. So bishop d6. Okay, now here onwards, practically all the moves are quite forced. Doesn't have a choice for white. Queen e1,
check,
forced. Fantastic combination. Sacrifice. Now it will be mixture, discovered, check, everything.
check, check,
Only move.
check,
Only move. G4.
checkmate,
This is how white got punished for keeping the king exposed to opponent's pieces. Okay, okay. So let's see one more interesting miniature. In fact, the game which I'm going to show you right now was one of my favorite game. It's you might have seen these the last position in many of the puzzle books. When I had attended few camps of in my age category group during that time, pre-national camps, few of the problems were coming practically in all the tactics. Whenever there used to be a test on tactics, like the position which I'll be showing you now is the one which I had faced many times in my tactics classes. Okay, that's e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. So we go to the Rilo page now. Now this is Rilo page opening. We have seen Geico piano, King's Gambit. Now it's Rilo page. And d4. By any chance, anyone know the name of this opening? It's variation in Rilo page. Whenever bb5, whenever black goes with nd4, it's birds opening. It changes the course of the normal Rilo pace, and black is himself willing to go with a double pawn on the d file, like after nd4, ed4, it will be double pawns for him. But this bishop might be, he will get some moves attacking this bishop by c6 and d5, so he gets a lead in development. Black played nd4, Applying the pressure on the center e4 pawn, e5. Okay, white is also playing aggressive. Maybe d3. You should have gone with d3 first. e5, d5. Bishop into d5 loses to knight into d5, just a piece down. If e into f6, into c4, if you take. If queen e2 check, I
check,
have e6. So nothing is happening with queen e2 check. If you castle now, you just capture the pawn. For rook e1
check,
check, again I have a bishop e6. So even this won't work. It will be just one pawn down, and white will be losing the control of the center forever. Black is having two bishops, extra pawn. All advantage remains with black. Okay. So if d into c4, maybe you should go with this. Castles, or here black can even think of doing long castles. Bishop here, move the queen and do the long castle so that after rook g8 you will have a strong attack on the king. And black king would be definitely safe because he's having the three pawns on the seventh rank, one, two, three, and what we can say two front soldiers with d4 and c4, stopping the development of white pieces. Even this was possible for black. But okay, coming back to the game, of course, white didn't go for this line. White played bishop to b3. Can any one of you suggest the move now? Let me tell you, if you play the normal moves, I have castles and then I can play it. First d3, fourth knight to go back, I'll do castles, play f4, and keep fighting for the initiative. Okay, now black played bishop g4. Queen is trapped if it doesn't play f3. So practically forcing white to go with f3. It doesn't have a choice than to play f3. Black himself got the bishop on g4 with f3. Here now his bishop is under attack. His knight is also under attack. So was it a wrong move? Is he losing a piece? Because at least if earlier he could have played knight e4, he would not have lost the piece. But was it a suicidal move, bishop g4? Was it a self-made? No. Now the interesting analysis begins. Black plays now knight to e4. White cannot capture f into e4 because that's pin and you're losing the queen. If you capture this, then I have
check,
four check. King f1 or king e2 would cost him the game after queen f2 check and c5. If g3, capture knight into g3. If you move the rook, I have again discovered check and seam threads will come on. So let me show it to you. If you play this,
check, check,
same thing will happen. What we had seen earlier. So coming back to the main position, so it's very clear that now white cannot capture f into g4, f into e4. So white decides to capture, making it safe. Putting the king in the shelter. Now black doesn't have a queen h4 check. Now still the attack on g4 remains. Slowly he'll play d3, get the pieces back on the track, provided he gets enough time. White is planning to play d3, get the bishop out, get the bishop in the game, knight in the game. If white is able to get his pieces back in the game, it will be easy for him. Because his pawn on e5, slowly he will play f4 and start getting the center control, start regaining the control. Black must act fast. Black did fantastic move d3. This sacrifice is stopping the movement of the d2 pawn. White's bishop on b3 has already stopped the movement of b2 pawn as well. So white cannot move b2 or d2 pawn. Because of that, he cannot move the c1 bishop. The c1 bishop is trapped. Because of c1 bishop, his rook he can't connect the rooks. So in reality, white might be playing with rook and bishop less in the game. So d6 was a fantastic move, which white definitely must have overlooked. He decides to capture the bishop.
check,
King h1. Okay. Now the combination starts. In fact, this was the same position which was given to us also during our national camps. Let me give you some time for you to think on this position so that you will get some idea of the position. Like before you suggest, let me tell you why black is not going for this nf2 to kf2 and bishop f2. Even that might be winning, but he's trying or he's hoping for something more than the normal material advantage, some bigger advantage, maybe a mate or a queen, something like this. Uh, okay, looking at the live chat, I can see chess knight is suggesting me knight g3 check.
check,
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the move. Knight g3 check. No other move than g3 is forced. He doesn't have an option. Now black is just trying to get the check on the h file, which will mate the white king. So the natural move is queen g5. That's what he played. Okay, Rishabh was asking for queen h4 instead of knight g3 check. Yeah, let me see what is he saying. Queen h4. I think now again white can go with g3 still, or I think h3 is simple and just play h3. As I told Rishabh, definitely he's winning by material, but black is aiming for something higher. He's trying to go for a mate. So after h3, if you play h5, I have something like g5. White is trying to delay the attack and try to get his own pieces. But as Knight Chess Knight told us, I think ng3 check is forcing move. I'm sorry, I went two moves behind. I'm so sorry. Castles d3. Did I go too many moves behind, right? Okay, let me see. Check takes
check,
and g3 check is
check,
g3. Okay. Simple idea is queen 5. Idea queen h6 a mate. Because there are 3 pawns in a row on the g2, g3, g4. White cannot create a space on the g2 because he has to first play g5, then g3 pawn to g4, and then g2 pawn to g3, which is next to impossible in the position. White cannot close the diagonal of the bishop as well. So threatening queen h6 mate, white plays rook f5. Idea for queen h6 check, white is trying rook h5. Like if
check,
just in time, he has managed to control the h file. So now mate with the queen is not possible. So now the move comes, I guess, one of our spectator, Rishabh, so h5. Yes, h5. If rook into g5,
check,
check. If rook here, rook into.
checkmate,
Oh, I'm sorry, I was a little bit faster.
checkmate,
So here we go back. So he can't play rook into g5. Stroke. Still, fate continues. G4 only move. Now again, the last combination, last blow of the game. This clearly confirms that black is going for the mate. He's not going for the material advantage. He doesn't want to delay the game. You want to finish off the game at earliest. So what to play now? Can any one of you suggest a move for black? Okay, rook h5.
check,
Black has clearly proved from his move, last couple of moves, that he is not going to stop unless he mates white's king. Again, this is forced. Queen here, forcing the threatening queen h4 mate. Okay, so queen e4. Idea is queen h4 check. G3 cannot be played because that's pin. The only hope is queen to f3, so that for check, I can interpose the queen with queen h3. But with couple of few forced moves, even the queen h3 doesn't help him to
check,
save the game. Queen h4 check, only move. Now it's mate in 3. Queen e1 check.
check,
King h2. Now all the moves are forced. Unfortunately, white doesn't have a choice. He has to follow whatever black wants to him to play in the game. bg1 check.
check,
Only move.
check,
King h2 and queen g.
checkmate,
So when we look at this, definitely it confirms that even in the ancient time, of course I'm telling this ancient time because the game was played in 1845, 46, so many years, almost we can say 175 years before. Even though the theory was not invented or maybe may not be advanced, But player used to play very strong over the board. They used to follow the original ideas, original concepts, and the game were really, really very interesting. So I'll be taking few more classes on this. I'll be going with this classical and pre-Morphy, post-Morphy period, and some interesting games analysis in my coming lectures. So hope you have enjoyed the session. See you in my next session with the second part of Golden Treasury of Chess. Till then, goodbye, and as the last one, stay safe, be at home, and play chess. Thank you.